How's it going, everybody? I'm Brandon,
I'm Matt.
and this is Breakthrough Stories. Today's episode, we have with us Chris Olson from Northwest Moss Removal in Northwest Washington. Chris, is it Seattle? Okay,
Yeah, so we're about an hour north of Seattle.
gotcha. Perfect. Where is that?
So I live in Snohomish, Snohomish County, city of Snohomish. There's both of them.
I'm
But
gonna
we
pretend
service
like I understood what that.
we service like a 3 or 4 county area. So we work in Seattle, but we're about 45 minutes north in one of the more not rural, but a little bit outside the city.
Perfect. So anyway, I'll just a little bit of backstory, and then Chris, I'll let you take it from there. But I met Chris in our first coaching group, which was a contractor fight. You kind of went and grew up from in other ranks of what they did. I kind of went off to another coaching group, but anyway, Chris is now with another Chris Trees with the Delta Collective and a consulting coaching group. So, Chris, why don't you just tell us about yourself?
Yeah, so I'm 30 years old. I grew up here, born and raised in Washington State. Been in the Pacific Northwest my whole life. I did move out of the area for a couple of times for periods of time, but always ended up back here. I've been a career firefighter for 6 years, in the fire service for 11. Yeah, the bad mustache tells that story.
Yes.
Started off as a volunteer, went to part time, went to full time, and I've been a union full time firefighter paramedic for I don't know, 6-7 years now. Early on in my fire service career, I was also doing a lot of construction. So in 2016, I started my first business, owned a handyman company that turned into a general contracting company. Ran that company for 7 years until 2021 or 2022. I have to think about that for a minute. And then the company I own now, I bought from the previous owner around that same time. For about a year, I ran both companies, ran my exterior maintenance and cleaning company, ran the general contracting company. And after a while of doing both, I just realized that general contracting was a lot more work. And it was a ton more work and a ton more management, a ton more overhead to make the same amount of money. So I closed down and I just focus on service now. And then about a year and a half ago, I also started coaching and consulting. So for the last year or two, I've been coaching and consulting and working with business owners. And recently, me and Chris Trees joined forces to kind of work together because we were both doing similar things and enjoyed working together. So I still work full time for the fire department, still run my company full time, and then in my enormous amount of free time, that's sarcasm, I coach and consult as well.
So it can be done.
Yeah, if you drink enough Monster, chew enough Zyn, and sleep not enough.
Hey, well, 14 hours a day minimum, I'm pretty sure. But
no. And then to add to the mix, I've got a 2-year-old running around behind me somewhere too.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, well, it's all about family, right? I mean, that's what you got to do this for. But Chris, we invited you on really with the idea that obviously the backstory and breakthrough stories is we kind of just try to find the is delta the right word, the low spots, people actually have. I'm trying to pull the words in here. See,
well, delta the word means change, so we
I can make that work.
So yeah,
but yeah,
so his idea.
With bringing you on, I guess we're talking about a little bit of the entrepreneurial side of this. So I just thought it was interesting how we were both in similar spots when we were joining coaching, but the uphill journey from working for somebody else to catching the entrepreneurial bug, to deciding to go out on your own, to finding out what that pain looks like, to find out that you need to pivot, to find out that you need to pivot again, to find out that the world can crash on you, but you come out on top. I mean, that's really the idea. And that's, to be honest, that's why I brought you into this. And so that's kind of the idea I'm bringing into this. So, I mean, for people that are just getting into this and going, I want to go out on my own, I mean, what are your first thoughts on that?
So, man, whenever I get asked this question, it always makes me think back to when I first started. And it reminds me of one of my favorite quotes, which is, I got tired of working 8 hours a day for somebody else. So now I work 24/7 for myself.
Yes.
And I think there's
for less money.
For less money, for more work, for less money and more stress and
no benefits.
And it's just one of those things where I tell everybody that wants to start a business that owning and running a company, regardless of what you're doing, is simultaneously the most rewarding thing that I've ever done in my entire life, and also the source of almost every bit of stress I've ever had in my adult life. And it's a catch-22. It's, you get that bug, you have the ownership and the responsibility of your own success and your own failure. You can't blame anybody else anymore. The buck stops with you as a business owner. So if you're struggling to pay your bills or you're making a crap ton of money, in both cases, it's your fault. And I actually like that. And I think that what most entrepreneurs have in common that are successful is not that they are smarter or better or do something different. It's that they like the hustle and they like the stress and they like the reward, and they're willing to put up with the failures because they know after enough times of failing, eventually you succeed. And I mean, how many famous entrepreneurs have you heard say the same thing, which is just, it's not that I did anything better. It's just that I tried more times than most people ever do.
Well, when I Facebook stalked you, I saw quite a bit of Alex Hormozy posts on your
I
your page.
I do like Hormozy.
Yeah.
Yeah, big fan.
Yeah.
But yeah, he does mention that being an entrepreneur or a business owner, either way you look at it, is the quickest way to get feedback. And there's no hiding from it, whether it's your clients or just the marketplace in general, or whether you fail or succeed, you're going to know immediately. Yeah. And as long as you take those results and, pivot, you can be successful. Failure is temporary.
I got a question for you. Work-life balance. I heard that you have a high-end gaming computer that has a lot of dust on it right now. So when you first started this, was this something that you would fall back on as a stress reliever? And now that you haven't done that for a long time, what do you do now to deal with that stress?
So that's a very funny example and a very funny story. So I do have a high-end gaming computer. However, the reason I have a high-end gaming computer is I actually built it for video and photo editing. I like editing and building video, editing and building photo, and doing 3D rendering and design. And I used to do a lot more of that as a hobby. And content creation is now kind of part of my job, both in my service company and in my consulting company.
Sure.
But I like Mac better. It's part of the reason. My main workstation now is a MacBook Pro that I take with me when I travel, and then I set up at my desk when I'm home. And I got tired of switching back and forth from Mac to PC. But I played video games a lot growing up, and what honestly happened is when I built my editing computer, part of me was like, oh man, I can start gaming again for fun when I have extra time. And I think I probably played a total of like an hour a week for the first 6 months to a year I had that computer. And then I got to the point where I still had that computer sitting on my desk, but I never played video games anymore. And then now I'm at a point where it hasn't even been plugged in the last 6 months to a year. It's sitting under my desk as a nice desk ornament. And I don't really blame work-life balance for that. I spend more time with my kid. I spend more time outside. I'd rather go to the gym or go for a walk with the kid or do something else than play video games most of the time.
Perfect.
So,
well, it's funny how quickly, I guess that is a longer period of time, but it goes by fast. It is funny how quickly things change and how priorities change and hobbies change. And as you're trying to grow as a person and grow as a company, that's another thing is I find it hard to believe. I'm not saying it's impossible. I find it hard to believe that there's people out there that grow ultra successfully without growing personally. It's like, I think it goes hand in hand. And I'm sure there's an example somebody could give me of someone who's real out of shape, is not a great person, and is very successful. I'm sure it exists, but it has to be the one.
I've got a great example. I've got a great example for that. So Andy Frisella, First Forum,
sure.
that whole community.
35 Hard.
Andy loves to talk all the time about how when he was first growing Supplement Superstores and First Forum and a lot of his original business ventures, he used to weigh 350 pounds. And it didn't stop him from being successful. But he said when he got his act together personally and decided he needed to change, it was instantly recognizable how big of an impact it had on his business when he got himself in shape. And he talks about it now all the time that it's not that you can't be successful and be, like, with lack of better terms, fat, but it makes it easier to stick to your standards and stick to your goals and stick to your list of things that you have to do every day if you're taking care of yourself too. And that's not even factoring in the whole argument of when you're in good shape, you can do a better job of taking care of other people and your family and your business. But I don't think you can't be successful and be out of shape, but I think it makes it a whole lot easier to be successful when you are in shape.
Yeah. And I have to admit, everyone makes snap judgments, right? And when I see someone, I have an interview, somebody comes in with me and they've completely looked sloppy from head to toe, and it's not just their dress, it's their body. It tells me that probably is an undisciplined person. You don't have to be stacked like Alex Ramosi to walk in and impress me, but if you take care of yourself and it shows, there's a huge difference.
Yeah, and I think that the reality is that nobody likes to talk about is we live in a society where we're expected to be very PC and be polite to everybody regardless of what they look like.
Yeah.
But I think that there's a reality that people judge you based on how you look, whether you shower or not, whether you take care of yourself, how you dress, how you're put together, whether you're in shape or not. And it doesn't mean you have to have a six pack, but if you're 400 pounds, people are automatically going to assume that you don't have very good self-discipline.
Absolutely. And I don't think those judgments are going away. Those are here to stay.
No.
They're embedded. Yeah.
Funny story and words of advice for those deploying this method. Before I had experience, because this is all experience, right? I learned, I was told this by somebody I was listening to before I got to Alex Hormozy, and I can't remember who it was. It may have been Tom Reber from the Contractor Fight, but he was talking about business partners, and just looking at them should tell you a lot. And I was giving a speech for one of my networking groups, and I happened to mention when you look at somebody, you don't have to judge them personally, but you can kind of get an outline of what their daily life looks like and kind of what their habits are. And boy, did I get tongue lashing from a lot of people that pulled me off to the side afterwards and told me that was rude and inconsiderate. But
it's real.
Yeah, it kind of blew me away how all these people are kind of living in a world where they just aren't seeing reality. And but I did realize you have to be very diplomatic on how you say these things and whatnot. But it doesn't mean that it's not true and you have to hide it. It just means you need to be thoughtful of how you present it.
Yeah, and the reality is I would guarantee you, like without knowing the whole story, guarantee you that every single person that walked up to you, the reason they walked up to you and said something to you is because they felt called out.
Right. Yes. Exactly.
He held up.
They all mentioned that I might be calling somebody else out, but 100% it was them that they didn't like,
Yeah, on some level, anybody that's offended by that is projecting a level of self-consciousness in their own actions. And what they're hearing is, this guy says that if I'm overweight, I can't be a successful business owner, or that I can't be a good manager, or that I can't do this. And they are offended by it. And it doesn't mean their reaction of being offended is invalid, but it kind of proves the point.
I think it holds up. I like to view it as this, and I can't take credit for this illustration, but I see it all the time now. Once I visualize it, I'm like, oh my gosh, I see it all the time. And it's even if you're not trying to say, hey, here's a great way to do this. This is what's been successful for these, top 100 people in this type of business industry. If you present something very well, whether it's your personality, your business, yourself, whatever it is, you're holding up a mirror for everybody to look back into. And if they don't measure up to that standard, they have that smallest perception of, I chose this. Like you said earlier, whether you win or whether you lose is your fault. And so I think they see that. You're holding up that astral mirror for them, and that pisses people off.
Yeah. Well, and the reality is people are going to have that mirror pop up in front of them. And if they don't like what they see, they're either going to acknowledge that they don't like what they see and change, or they're going to make up an excuse. And at the end of the day, like the classic quote says, you don't find time to do something. You either make the time or you make an excuse. The time doesn't just find itself for you. And that goes for growing your company, putting off things that you need to do, getting in shape, going to the gym, eating well, whatever it is. I mean, people make time and prioritize what's important to them. And if they haven't made that priority in their life and you call them out on it, they're going to find an excuse as to why they haven't.
I think that's a perfect segue, Chris. Something I wanted to talk about today, since we are on limited time, I'm going to jump right to this, is we're going into 2026. We're closing out 2025, good or bad or worse. Here we are. Everybody's either making resolutions or they're making plans, or at least I hope they are, or have already been executing them. But through your years and experience here with the businesses and where you are now with the consulting, what would you say are some of the key points that you have learned about looking at the past years and prioritize, finding what the what you want to find out of it and trying to bring that into the new year, mistakes. Cause I'll tell you, I have completely revamped how I used to make 40 giant stretch goals and then be so disappointed when I barely had got halfway to one. You know, I've redone it all, but how have you kind of restructured the way you look at a new year?
Yeah. So I have two things that I always say about that. My first one is that you have to have a vision for the future, and you have to have goals that actually push you in that direction. And I think one of the biggest mistakes people make is a goal, whether it's in your head, written down on paper, or in a journal or in an app, doesn't really mean anything unless it's broken down into actionable steps.
Yeah.
So you see all these people that are like, I want to make 6 figures this year. I want to make 300K this year. I want to start my company. I want to lose 100 pounds, whatever it is. And they don't take the time to break it down into actual actionable steps. And they don't break it down into steps that are actually measurable and attainable.
Right.
So I don't know if you ever heard of the SMART goal concept, but it's one of my favorite analogies. Let me pull it up so I can make sure I don't butcher the acronym. But essentially, there's this concept called SMART goals. So SMART is the acronym, and it's specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-based. So what that means is that you're not just setting a goal, but like, let's say your goal is, I want to get in shape, or I want to do X. If you are a 600-pound human that wants to weigh 220 pounds, saying I'm going to be 220 pounds in 6 months is not a realistic, attainable, or very good goal, because you're setting yourself up for failure. But if you are a 300-pound person that wants to be 250, saying I want to lose that 50 pounds in 6 months, 9 months, or a year is an attainable goal. But it also has to be specific. So saying I want to make more money is not specific. Saying I want to raise my income from 80K to 120K is specific. And then measurable is, how are you actually going to quantify or measure the goal that you set? So if you're going to say, I want to make an extra 80K this year, you can measure that down into, I want to make X number of dollars in quarter 1, quarter 2, quarter 3, quarter 4. And in order to do that, I'm going to do this, 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 and this in my company. Yep. And you break it down into actionable steps that you can actually take. And then the relevant and time-based part's also important. So the relevance is, does this goal actually meet my long-term vision? If you don't know where you want to be in 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, you might set goals that are cool, but they don't actually measure up to reaching that vision that you have for the future.
Okay, I was really good at that. Don't bash me.
And then time-based is setting the goal to have an actual time. So that's why I always tell people, think about your 5-year plan, then think about what you have to do in the next 12 months to get there, and then set a goal for each month or each quarter. Because if you don't have that time-based kind of deadline to what you're going to do, if you can't put a time limit on the goal that you have, it's too big. So that's where there's a difference between a visionary goal, a specific, measurable, SMART goal that you can reach in a set amount of time, and then the action steps it takes to actually reach that goal.
Right.
And I recommend everybody do this on paper. Like, just grab a sheet of printer paper or grab a notebook and start off with, these are all the goals I have in the next 5 years. Then break those down into, what can I do in the next year? And then break those down into, what am I going to do this quarter? And then look at that list of those specific measurable items and say, which one of these can I do myself? Which ones of these am I going to need help or resources or a coach or a professional or an accountant or whatever it is to reach, and split those into 2 separate categories. And then the action steps you take are either starting on it, if it's something you can do yourself, or reaching out to whoever you need to help to do it.
So I think a lot of people get overwhelmed when they think of this process. And once you put something in writing, there's a certain reality it takes on, and there's really no going back in your head. Even, so the leeway I give myself on that is, you got to realize you can change that goal at any time. Yep. So just because it's on there and it says in 5 years you're going to be here, maybe in 2 years you're actually going to surpass that, which is a good thing. Or maybe in 2 years you find out that wasn't actually attainable and you need to reevaluate it. Or you might not even be interested in this anymore. You may have got so involved in it and found out what it would take. You go, you know what, this isn't for me, and you need to pivot.
Yeah. Well, and both business and personal, the biggest factor that oftentimes comes into that is capacity. So like if you had somebody that came to you and said, "Hey, I have a $1 million a year plumbing company and I want it to be a $30 million a year plumbing company and I want to do that in the next 18 months." You're going to say, "Well, that's not impossible, but your current capacity is to do $1 million. How many more technicians, trucks, and bundles of equipment do you need to do $30 million? You don't currently have the capacity for it." It's the same thing where somebody that has 2 jobs, a family, and a busy schedule says they want to lose 100 pounds. You don't find the time in that person's schedule to schedule workouts or meal prepping. You have to make the time, which means you have to adjust your capacity somewhere else to make the time for that action. And when you're talking to business owners that are talking about personal and business goals, they both have an element of capacity, where if you don't currently have the capacity to do it, you might set a goal and then start figuring out what action steps are actually going to be required to do that and realize, oh crap, I can't do that in the amount of time I set.
Absolutely.
So, and like you said, Brandon, it might not always be just adjusting the goal, but it might be adjusting the timeline of how long it's going to take you to do it. You might set a 1-year goal and realize it's going to take you 3, or you might set a 3-year goal and realize you can do it in 6 months. I mean, one of the things I love Hormozy says all the time is people underestimate what they can do in 6 months and they overestimate what they can do in 20 years.
And he stole that from Tony Robbins.
Which he stole from. Yeah,
I was going to say I can't give Hormozy credit for that because I know it's probably more than one person.
All right, so on that note,
yeah,
this is Breakthrough Stories. So, Chris, give me a story about a goal that you made before that after some time and work on it, you realized needed massively changed.
Yeah, I mean, I can give you a couple. The first one is when I was running my general contracting company, I grew that company from me, myself, and I in a pickup truck doing 100K a year the first year, 300 the second year, just shy of $1 million year 3, wow. 2.6 year 4, just under 3 year 5. And Bravo. During those last 2 years doing a few $1 million, I had the goal on my vision board of being a $10 million a year company. And I realized a couple of things. One is I had 15 employees the time I was doing 3 million, and my overhead was massive, my payroll was massive, and my profit was slim. I mean, I was doing 40 to 50% gross profit and barely netting 10. And the last year we actually basically broke even. And I realized that goal of being a $10 million a year company wasn't unattainable, but I realized I didn't want to do it anymore, because I realized how much work and effort it would take to grow a $3 million a year GC company to $10 million a year. And I was running my service company and realized I would much rather have a $3 to $5 million a year service company than a $10 million a year GC company, because honestly, I'd probably make more money and it was a lot less work. It's service. In a lot of service companies, it's as simple as systematizing the company and then hitting copy and paste and just growing and scale. Whereas with a GC company, it's a lot harder to do that. And it's a lot harder to manage without really good, high quality key team members. And there's a lot more room for slippage in general contracting than there is in service.
But you wouldn't have known that without doing it.
And I didn't know that at all in year 3. I didn't figure that out till year 5.
That's what a lot of people, I mean, I was just doing this myself when I'm looking at 2025 and making goals for 2026. I was thinking, man, if I just would have done this in 2025, if I one little shift, if I would have done that or would have done this. And the honest truth is, I wouldn't have known to do that without the experience that I had. So, I mean, you can wish, and you know the whole saying, but sometimes you just have to go through it to know what you don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's the school of hard knocks. It's one of the things I tell people all the time as a business coach is there's 2 ways to learn things in business. You can make the mistake yourself and it costs you a whole bunch of money, or you can talk to somebody else, whether it's a coach, consultant, colleague, fellow business owner, and you can learn from their mistakes that cost them a whole bunch of money.
Right.
It's the school of hard knocks, because you're going to learn that lesson one way or the other. And you're going to learn it by either paying somebody else or having somebody else give you a hint, or you're going to make the mistake yourself and then fix it. There's really no way around it.
Have you ran into the personality type, someone who's successful? I know several like this, but absolutely is adverse to advice, coaching, management. they're just like allergic to it. And it blows my mind. I try to understand everybody, and that type of person, I have yet to, you could save 5, 10, 20 years getting the right advice in my mind. That's the way I see things anyway. But I know people who I ask if they've heard of this podcast or whatever, and they're like, I can't stand, they literally get ill when someone tries to give them advice. People like that.
Oh yeah, I've met them. And the funniest thing is, I think a lot of them I actually have met in coaching programs.
Oh,
I mean, you look at so many group coaching programs like Tom Reber's Battleground group. I mean, one of the craziest things to me is how many people were in that group that just never actually showed up to calls or showed up to events or did anything. Like it's the same thing though. I mean, how many times have you gone to the gym and there's 3,000 membership dues paying members, and on an average day there's 20 people inside? I mean, the average owner of a gym will tell you 50+% of their members never show up. And it's one of the things that I kind of wonder. Yeah, I wonder how many people are just in a state where it's not that they don't think they need help, it's that they try it once and it doesn't work, and there's not enough instant gratification, there's not enough instant change, or they get the advice but they don't know how to implement it, or they get the advice and they think they know better. I mean, I think they all kind of loop together where it's not, I don't know if they're necessarily allergic to help as much as they just don't see the value in it.
You're right. Tom, when I was in that, I heard Tom talk a lot about the people that would either leave bad reviews and I met these people myself in Battleground where they'd go, man, I tried it, it didn't work. And then you'd look at you could see when people were active or not. They were just never in there. And
they were never doing it. Or they would show up to a couple of calls, implement absolutely nothing, and they would just be like, I know better.
It is an interesting, and some of those people are successful. That's the crazy thing. But you said you had multiple stories. Is there another one?
Multiple stories about like your
goals
that shifted? Yeah. Well, another example is a lot simpler, and it's an example of needing to shift your goals based on outside circumstances. So one of my goals is to be a lieutenant in the fire department. And our last round of testing was about a year ago. Somebody else got promoted, and I thought I'd have another shot at it in about a year. However, the guy that's currently in that job decided instead of retiring in 2026, he's going to stay for 5 more years. Ooh. So I potentially won't have an opportunity to even test or be eligible for that promotion in the next 3 to 5 years. And it's not that I'm not going to keep studying or keep practicing or keep training. I'm still an acting lieutenant, acting officer, so I'm still going to step in and fill that role when nobody else is there and people are on vacation. But I probably won't have the opportunity to pursue that promotion for at least 3 to 5 years. Because right now there's 3 people in those spots that aren't planning on retiring in the next couple of years. Oh. So unless somebody gets injured or gets early retirement or decides to take off, there's a good chance I won't even have that chance in the next few years. So I had that on my list of goals to get promoted or at least test for the promotion, but I probably won't get the chance.
Not everything is in your control, unfortunately.
Doesn't matter how hard I studied or how hard I practiced if there's no promotional test.
I mean, not everything is in their control either. So even though they have stated that their intentions are that, you never know what could change.
But you said yes to that opportunity, which I think is huge. And we can take this back to your example about the coaching. When those people said yes to that, they said, yes, I'm going to take this small step and then hope that magic happens. They didn't say yes and actually make a promise to themselves or their coach. They may have made a promise to their coach, but that's easy to break. When you make a promise to yourself, I find is really advantageous. A couple of years ago, Brandon got me into 75 hard for the first time, and I was already on a path, but it did change my life dramatically because I realized that I wasn't keeping my word to myself on a regular basis, and that was terrible.
I was just going to use that example. I think that's why 75 hard is so impactful for people. I don't think it's because people go work out for 75 days. I think the number one thing that 75 hard teaches people is to keep promises to themselves.
Absolutely.
Committing to doing something and then actually doing it.
Yeah. And it changed the dynamic in my family, being able to keep my word to my friends, my children, myself, obviously, most importantly, but it allowed the veil to be lifted a little bit off my consciousness and go, oh, if I'm going to do this thing, I really need to put some homework into this, make some actionable steps and say I'm going to do it, not just throw some shit in the air and see what lands.
And I think it's important to tell people as well, real quick, Chris, on that thought, is that people are afraid of 75 hard because they're afraid of failing because it seems very difficult. It's okay to go in knowing you're going to fail. So even if you go through this, like when I did my electrical testing, the first thing I did was go in way unprepared just to see what it looked like. And it was scary. But it let me know, okay, I know how far I am below the bar. So it's okay to just do it and realize, oh man, even taking a picture of yourself every day is difficult. I have to build that muscle. So I limped my way through it, literally with a bad knee the first 2 times.
Yeah, well, and funny story, the first time I ever did 75 hard, I failed on day 68 for forgetting a progress bar.
Oh, everybody's first failure is a picture. Everybody's first failure.
Yep, almost always. Or I know a couple of guys that failed because they read like 8 pages and then they were going to circle back to it later in the day, finished everything else, went to bed, and realized the next day they didn't actually read 10.
I think my first 5 days repeated themselves 4 or 5 times before I'm like, oh, I probably need to continue this correctly.
Yeah.
It made me realize that just my daily routines were not set up for me to be successful or accomplish a lot. It was just 5% here, 10% there, 6% there. I could never give more than that because I just didn't allot the time. I wasn't going to bed on time. I wasn't eating right. I wasn't getting up on time. You can only change one thing at a time. So, I mean, that's what it taught me is, okay, next time I do it, I'm going to make sure to nail this one thing, even if I fail at the rest. And this is the first I haven't done in like 4 years. And
I think 75 hard, besides keeping your promises to yourself, I think that's the number one thing it teaches you, is it teaches you that concept of you don't find time for what's important, you make time for what's important. And it's incredible to me how many people tell me that they did 75 hard and they added all these things to their daily routine. And because they prioritized those things, they found a lot of wasted time in their day and they made time for other things that were important. Absolutely. I mean, just because you're on 75 hard doesn't mean you don't give your attention to anything else. And it's incredible how 75 hard will improve your business life, improve your family life, help you keep promises to your family and friends, help keeping promises to yourself, and making time in your schedule for what's important has such a profound impact on every area of your life.
Absolutely.
The first couple of years after I finished it, like I was planning and plotting and being like, all this time I'm going to have that I didn't have before once I stopped the program. And I did find other things to fill that time. But then after like the 3rd year of doing it, I'm like, oh, you kind of got to keep doing these things. At least for the majority of it. Every time I did it, drinking the water would just make its way into my daily life, past that. And then getting a workout program in daily, it's like, well, I kind of need these things. Even without trying to do live hard, which is the whole program. If you continually do it every year, you kind of just end up doing that, realizing you need that to be at full force.
Yeah. Well, and it teaches you how important things like the whole concept of the power list is wild to me. Like I use it every day still, long after I ever did live hard. And I have a notebook where I look at my to-do list every day and I look at what's actually important, what actually needs to get done today, what can get put off to another day. And every day, if all I get done are those 3 to 5 highly critical things that are actually important, and then the rest of the day goes to shit, I still feel like it was a good day. Nice. And 75 hard teaches you that mentality of if you get the bare minimum done, but your bare minimum's got to be a good standard. But if you get that bare minimum done, even if the rest of the day is trash, you still had a good day. You still won the day.
I work it backwards sometimes. If I get a little off track, I'll sit down and I'll write out my day, and I will fill every minute with something. And so this is a 20-minute process in the morning I got to do. But if I get off track, I feel I need to do this because then I'll write down all the bullshit that I'll actually use as filler time in there because I'm trying to be honest with myself. And I just cross them out and say, I'm not going to do this, and I'm not going to do this, and I'm not going to do 15 things today that would have taken 4 hours of time cumulatively between shifting and transitioning between what I was doing and then doing the thing that was not productive for me. And I find that saying no to those things is just as important as prioritizing the top 3.
Yeah. Oh man.
Oh, Chris. Well, sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I think we're getting close to our cutoff time. So
yeah, I was going to throw one more question out there as we ramp out.
Sounds good to me.
As someone, obviously we're going to consider you, Chris, as the Delta Collective consultant here. as someone who's going into the new year, whether it's business or family or whatever they're struggling with, obviously in this situation we're going to talk about, let's just say it's somebody with a business. They had a really difficult 2025. They had a really difficult 2024. They're looking at 2026 going, man, think I've tried everything. Maybe even thinking about giving up. What advice would you give to that person if you could, I don't want to say one thing, but something simple that might help somebody in that situation?
I've got something simple. I've got an answer for this question because I've been asked that question before. And what I always like to say is one of the biggest things I see over and over and over, and I've heard Tom talk about it, I've heard of Alex Hormozy talking about it, I've heard Andy talk about it, which is most business owners, without realizing it, repeat the same year over and over and over for 30 years, wondering why their business doesn't grow or get better or scale or change. And the reality is you can't change everything overnight. You're not going to fix a struggling business in a day. But sit down and look at the big picture and pick a couple, 2, 3, 4 small things that you can do today, whether it's a repeating habit or a single task, and sit down and use the power list, use a journal, use a notebook, use whatever, but just sit down and focus on winning the next 24 hours. Focus on making sure that today is good. Then do it the next day, then do it the next day, then do it the next day. And eventually you have a week, and then eventually you have a month, and eventually you have a year, and eventually you have a life. And the reality is that you're not going to change anything in one day, but you can make progress towards the change that you need in one day. And if you stack day after day after day after day after day, eventually 30, 60, 90 days later, those little 0.5%, 1% changes every day stack cumulatively. It's basically compound interest on your life.
Yes.
And when you focus on changing a little bit every day, eventually you get a big change. But people fail because they want to have that big change immediately, and they fail to see the short term in the big picture. So take those big goals, that big vision, whatever it is you want, and break it down so far that you get to where, what am I going to do today? And do that and forget about everything else. Because if you get lost in the where you need to be in 6 months or a year or 10 years, you'll fail to win today.
Beautiful.
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate that, Chris. How can people find you? The Delta Collective, Northwest Moss Removal. Give us some tips on how we can get a hold of you.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm active on social media. You can find me under Chris Olson on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. You can find the Delta Collective, same places. We're most active on Facebook. We have a free Facebook group for contractors. People are welcome to join. And then we also have a website that I can send you to add to the show notes. And then as far as just getting a hold of us, you can reach out to us on social media, or our social media and website has a phone number and email you can get a hold of me at.
Appreciate it. Well, Chris, thanks for joining us, Matt.
Thank you. Nice
we'll
to meet you.
See you next time.
Awesome.